Welcome anyone to my YouTube channel. This is Two Beasts to Kill You, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the Fallout TV show on Amazon Prime. It's been out a week now, and I think that it's enough time now that if you have any interest in watching the show, you've already seen it, or almost done watching it, that this is the point now where I want to talk about it, because I will be getting into spoilers and talking about things that happened in the show. But before we get into all that, please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff if you like the content that I put out. I know I'm not the best, but I try, and any view, any share I get, any thumbs up, all that stuff, it's very much appreciated. Now, super quick, non-spoiler review, 30-second take or whatever you want to call it. Show is great. Everyone should watch it. I think it will appeal to non-Fallout fans while appealing to Fallout fans at the same time, which is maybe sometimes hard to do for certain adaptations of video games, but I think it nails it. The look of the show, the sound of the show, the characters, overall, like everything pretty much was, if I were to give it a score, like a 9 out of 10. Especially Alla Purnell's character, Lucy McLean, the main character. She's just great. Walton Goggins is probably Walton Goggins' character, the Ghoul, is by far my favorite character. Probably going to be a lot of people's favorite character, but I'll get into that. So, yeah, that would be my non-spoiler. Really quick, go watch it. Show's great. And now to get into why I love the show into more detail. So the characters. The characters were all great. I would say there's 4 main characters, even though they advertised 3. But there's 4. There's Lucy McLean, Alla Purnell's character, Walton Goggins' character, the Ghoul, and I don't remember the actor's name. He plays a character named Maximus, and his storyline has to do with the Brotherhood of Steel. But there's also Lucy's brother, Norm, and his storyline deals with the actual vault that they are from, him and Lucy, which is Vault 33. So first off, Norm's story, it is actually a pretty big part of the show, which is why I'm surprised that they didn't advertise that his character was a main character as much as the other 3 characters, because when you really look at the through lines and connections, I think Maximus's story is probably maybe the least connected compared to the rest of the characters and like the overall story of the show. And that, I guess I can get into his character first. It's just more that, okay, he's part of the Brotherhood of Steel. He becomes a squire for one of the Brotherhood's knights, a knight named Titus. And then his knight dies, and so Maximus takes his armor. It does connect in that there's a MacGuffin that, a MacGuffin that everyone's looking for. It's a little device that's implanted into the head of a scientist that was, I'm pretty sure, I may have missed it, or it went over my head, but I'm pretty sure he's a scientist for the Enclave, which is one of the factions of the show. If you're not very familiar, or the video games, if you're not familiar with the video games, but at one point he escapes from the Enclave. They're looking for him, everyone starts looking for him. But he meets up with Lucy. They get out of a bad situation that I'll get into later, or I'll get into in a bit. But he dies, so she cuts off his head, and he has in his head a cold fusion device. This is the thing that like everyone starts looking for, and that's basically okay. This is gonna power up all of Los Angeles, which is where the show is set. So for Maximus's story, it's basically just that. He's looking for the head, and when he gets the armor at the Brotherhood sends another squire, thinking that he has Maximus himself has died, and their relationship is, it's funny at a time because they're, the way they go through while they're searching for the head. The squire's name is Thaddeus, by the way. They're searching for the head, and they're like, it's like a buddy, like, oh, we got this, we're going to do this. Even Maximus in the armor, it's just kind of funny to see at times too, the way Maximus just, at one point when they actually do get the head, the way he's celebrating, he's like throwing up his arms, and it looks pretty hilarious. Just seeing that armor, the Brotherhood armor, doing that kind of stuff is hilarious. There's also with Thaddeus, he becomes a ghoul by the end of the show. He finds this, like, I don't think he's a scientist. He's like a salesman of, supposed medicines and stuff, but he's clearly like this weirdo guy. I mean, at one point in the show, he's like fucking chickens or something, or no, he is. And so that he gives him some Thaddeus medicine because his foot is messed up after an altercation with Maximus. And so he becomes a ghoul from that. But that's really all it for Maximus on his own. When he does meet up with Lucy, his character, they, they're around each other for a while and doing stuff, which I'll get into when I'm talking more about Lucy's character. Norm's storyline is completely on his own after Lucy has left the vault, because the inciting incident is that some raiders attack Vault 33. That's the vault that they are in. After she is supposed to marry someone from Vault 32. It's 3 vaults that are connected, 31, 32, and 33. So she's set to marry someone from 32. It turns out that they're raiders, the group that came in from 32. They're actually just raiders. They attack, kill a bunch of people from 33, and kidnap her father. So she leaves the vault to go get her father. Basically, Fallout 3's like inciting incident, a bit similar to that. I think he just leaves in Fallout 3, his father, the character's father. So that's the inciting incident and what makes Lucy leave the vault while her brother stays behind. And his story is that he's uncovering what is happening with the vaults. And in the vaults, it is what he finds out is that 32, at one point he goes to Vault 32 because, like I said, they're all connected to each other, 31, 32, and 33. He goes to find out because he's like, what happened? What was going on? Why was it raiders? Why did raiders get in through 32 and then come attack us? When he gets to 32, he finds out it is just destroyed. It is, everyone is dead. Their crops are just desiccated. And it looks like it's been like that for at least a few years now, because some of the corpses are like mummified or, just dried out and everything. And then when he does find out how the raiders get in, it turns out that it was his mother's Pip-Boy, which is the little armrest, like smartwatch thing that they have on their wrists. It was his mother's Pip-Boy that allowed the raiders to get in. And she's kind of a minor character, but the leader of the raiders that attacked Vault 33 is named Moldaver. We'll get to her. you think she's going to be the big bad, but she's in basically the first, her and Kyle MacLachlan, which is Kyle MacLachlan's character. I don't remember his name, which is Lucy's father. They're basically just major characters in the first episode and the last episode of the season. I'll get to them though. And so, yeah, then Norm finds out that Vault 31, all the overseers for Vault 33 have come from Vault 31. And so he's like, this is weird. They've all come from Vault 31. So eventually he makes his way to Vault 31 and he finds out what Vault 31, what the trio of vaults actually is. Because if you've played the games, you know that they're all meant to be like, well, not all of them, but most of them are meant to be like experiments and things like that. And this one is basically just another one of those where, okay, they're trying to control what is happening with these vaults. And I think this one specifically is for that the people in 31 are meant to be basically the people who rule over what would now be the new population of Earth after the bombs have dropped and when they start repopulating it. These are the ones meant to control everything for Vault 31. But that's so far with that. At the end of Norm's storyline, he ends up in a cryo chamber because something I'll get into later. Basically, his father, Kyle MacLachlan's character, is from before the bombs dropped. But I'll get to that because that actually has to do with Walton Goggins' character, the Ghoul. So, for the Ghoul's storyline, his plays back and forth between the past, before the bombs drop, and the present, where he is the Ghoul. He was there in his first scene, the first scene of the show. He's at a party entertaining some kids, and they show the bombs dropping in Los Angeles. It's a very good scene. Just the way it plays out. They're having fun. You know it's coming, obviously, because it's the Fallout show. Like, why would they have a scene, the very first scene, be set before the bombs drop, where everyone's having a good time and it's at a party and everything's fine, normal, blah, 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 blah. But even though you know it's coming, when it happens, it is so good. So, during present time, he's after that MacGuffin, the cold fusion device, just because there's a bounty. He's a bounty hunter in the present timeline, or present storyline, and or present time storyline. And so he's just after the money. That's basically it. He's gonna get it and get money. The bottle caps. But the meat of his story, the real like intrigue or whatever you want to call it, is the past, before the bombs dropped. In the past, he was an actor who fought in wars before he became an actor in the timeline of Fallout. Named Cooper Howard. He's an actor named Cooper Howard, and his wife works for Vault-Tec. So, at one point, he meets up with one of his actor friends who's saying, hey, Vault-Tec, they're not great, yada, yada, yada. And if you know video game lore, yeah, Vault-Tec's not great. As I said earlier, they use the vaults for experimentation, or whatever you want to call it. So he meets Moldaver in the past. One of the few scenes that she's in the show is him meeting is Cooper Howard's character, the Ghoul character, meeting Moldaver, and she says, why don't you spy on your wife? So he does. Eventually he does spy on his wife, and in a really awesome scene where you see just different different like companies or corporations of the Fallout show meeting together in like almost a, you know, like as if you were watching it from like the Austin Powers movies, you know, a little comical and a little over the top, like, you know, the board meeting of the evil conglomerates kind of thing. But there's Robco, Big MT, Westech, obviously Vault-Tec, like all those, the big, if you know the Fallout lore, you know who these guys are. And this is where you find out that they are the ones, or at least they were planning on doing it. It still hasn't, I know some people are saying, or online, that this confirms that Vault-Tec and America dropped the bomb, or maybe not America, but Vault-Tec dropped the bombs that led to the Great War and, you know, the apocalypse. But I could still see them like shying away from that, and that they were planning on doing it, and they just didn't get to it in time, maybe. But during the board meeting, the ghoul's wife is the one to say that we should drop the bombs, because they are all planning on banding together, using the vaults as a way to basically control the earth, control the world after everything has gone to shit. And it was a very, seeing like Walton Goggins, I've seen him in, you know, he's been in a lot of stuff, and I've seen him in other things. I've seen him in that, you know, Ant-Man movie. He was in that, I think, the Tomb Raider movie, right? Yes. I've seen him in Sons of Anarchy. If you've seen him in that, oh man, he plays a very, very interesting character in that. But he was also in that Justified show. I haven't seen that, or I haven't really watched it, but from what I've seen, he's really good in that. So if you know who Walton Goggins is, oh my God, he is very good at his craft. And the way he acts his ass off when he's hearing that his wife is planning on killing everyone, basically, or killing most of the world anyway. That scene is so good. But that also, in that scene also shows Kyle MacLachlan's character was as part of Vault-Tec, and that he is part of Vault 31's, you know, cabal of like, this is what we're going to control the world. So that's all of the Ghouls storyline. Basically is that we find out Vault-Tec, they're the bad guys. I mean, duh. And that connects with Norm's story in the future, or in the present, because Kyle MacLachlan's character was in a cryo chamber in Vault 31, and you find out that there's just a lot of people or a lot of the like higher ups of Vault-Tec and all that in cryo chambers that I guess come out to basically become overseers and all that stuff of Vault 33 and 32, or at least Vault 33. They don't do much on what was happening in Vault 32, because there's a mystery of like, oh, you know, the Raiders at one point tell Norm like, oh, you don't know what they were doing in there, but they don't really get into it. And if they do, I honestly cannot remember. Yeah, I don't remember. But yeah, so Kyle MacLachlan, his character was part of that whole plan for world domination by Vault-Tec. And now for the main character, Lucy McLean, played by Ella Purnell. Her story is obviously the main story, and everything connects to her. And, you know, at one point she's paired with the Ghoul. At one point she's paired with Maximus. And at one point, for maybe 10 minutes of an episode, she's paired with the scientist that created the cold fusion device. So as I said, the inciting incident is her father gets kidnapped, and so she sets out to go find him, to go bring him back. And along the way, she gets caught up in protecting the head from the cold fusion of the cold fusion device from everyone trying to find it, because the scientist told her, "Hey, you need to do this. This is important. Get it to basically the people." Actually, he tells her to get it to the people who kidnapped her father. So that's why she's like, "Okay, I'm going to do this," because she obviously, this is her thing. I'm just going to get my father, and I want to get him and bring him back. So that's how her story ends up weaving into the overall story. And then when she loses the head, she meets up with the ghoul. Or, well, no, she meets up with the ghoul beforehand in a town where, oh my God. Yeah, this is another good scene. In the town where she meets the scientist. And he just kills everyone, the ghoul. Like, he kills, like, everyone. It's a shootout, and he's just so good in that scene. Just very, very good. Just, I can't even, like, I can't gush enough about how good he is in that scene. Just in the show overall, but anyways, yeah, this isn't about him. This is about Lucy McLean, the main character. So that's where she meets the scientist, and then they go on. But as I said, he dies. So she cuts off his head. She loses it though. When she goes to look for the head again after being captured by the ghoul, because she loses it in a lake, and some giant creature eats it, and so she's off to just get away from the ghoul after that didn't work out, we'll say. She meets Maximus's character again. She sees him earlier in the show during the aforementioned scene in the town where the ghoul just kills everyone, and she's automatically like smitten by his character. Like, wow, is he like, the way she looks at him, she's like, he's like some kind of superhero, isn't he? She's like, is that a knight? That's the line she says, but like you could tell. And one of the things I like about her character is that she has that like plucky, yes we can attitude. Even her like, I guess, catchphrase is okie dokie. I love that. She's clearly not just a character that's automatically like, yeah, people suck, and she trusts people on, like, almost to her, like, she almost gets killed because of it a few times. But that's, she comes from the vault. And if you know the Fallout, the video game lore, yeah, these people are not, the people from the vaults they're not like the brightest. They are very naive, and she's naive. At first, obviously, the journey is she's going to become more of a hardened person, per se. We'll say that. So, after she meets up with Maximus's character, that's just more. After she meets up with Maximus's character, they end up in another vault, Vault 4, where they find out that experiments were happening there. That's where the first time you really see that, like, they mention that, yes, experiments are happening. But it's not with the group that are there now, that are, like, controlling the vault. They say, oh, yeah, this was happening. We want to fix that. And so, eventually, she attacks some of the vault dwellers, thinking, oh, you guys are doing bad things. And so they, quote unquote, exile her. She just leaves. And then Maximus leaves too, because he does the same thing, thinking he's saving her or rescuing Lucy. But this is all more like side stuff, things that flesh out the show's like overall storyline. This all leads to the final episode of the show, where you find, like, everything is, well, not everything, but at least everything for this season is revealed. Moldaver was in the past, as I said before. She was in the past, and she knows all about Vault-Tec's evil plan. She reveals that to Lucy, and that And then she also reveals to Lucy that Kyle MacLachlan was the one who killed Lucy's mother, because earlier in the show you find out that, or they say that her mother's dead. And so that just leads to her saying, "That's it. I don't want anything to do with you. You're a bad person," because of the way, her attitude. And she's, like I said, she has that plucky thing. But this is to turn her more toward obviously being a hardened person. And while all this is happening, a battle between the Brotherhood and Moldaver's crew. There's a battle happening between those two groups. And you find out that, but during this time, you find out that Kyle MacLachlan's character killed her mother and blew up a town called Shady Sands. And if you've played at least Fallout New Vegas, but it's been in other games, that's a very important town in the Fallout games. And Lucy and her mother were part of that, or were in that town, and it got nuked because Kyle MacLachlan was like, well, I'm going to have to kill Lucy's mother because I'm evil, basically. So they get the cold fusion device to Moldaver, they activate it, and all the lights turn on in Los Angeles. Moldaver dies, and it ends with the Ghoul and Lucy, after Kyle MacLachlan's character escapes using Maximus's armor because he meets back up with Lucy during this battle. He escapes, and Lucy and the Ghoul are like, well, okay, let's go look for your father. Or the Ghoul tells her that, let's go look for your father, because he knows Kyle MacLachlan's character from the past, because he met up with him at the point when he found out that his wife was going to drop nukes on America. So he wants to talk. He knows that his wife is still there, or at least it's heavily implied that, he wants to go talk to these people, at least his wife, on why they did this and everything. And obviously she wants to go at least talk with her father and maybe get back at her father and everything. That's the ending for them. And it also ends with Maximus now becoming a full knight, at least being claimed as a full knight by one of his fellow Brotherhood initiates, after they say, oh, you killed Moldaver. He didn't actually kill Moldaver, but his fellow initiate is like, hey, you killed Moldaver, say that. And so that's where the show ends, at least for the main characters, with Norm being put into, or going into a cryo chamber, or seemingly going to go into a cryo chamber, Maximus becoming a full knight of the Brotherhood, and Lucy and the Ghoul off to find Kyle MacLachlan's character. I'm sorry, I'm not remembering. I think it might be Hank. But the final shot that's setting up season 2, which is so good of a shot. You see Kyle MacLachlan walking with the sunset behind him in that knight armor. And then he walks up, to a stop, and the camera pans over him, and you see New Vegas. And that's where the season ends. And I couldn't be more excited, because, like I said earlier in my review slash thoughts, I love this show, and them possibly integrating stuff from the video games, even more so, where here's storylines from the video games, that very much excites me as well. So having New Vegas possibly be the setting of the next season, perfect. That's sign me up. I think that'll end my thoughts on this show. I'm pretty sure I've gotten into enough of it and to explain why I liked what I liked. So yes, again, if I had to score it, I'm not big on scoring things, but if I had to score it, I'd probably give the show a 9.5 out of 10. It was so good. I know that there's some people online who didn't like certain things. They say there's like a timeline issue or a retcon issue or whatever. I don't know if, I mean, there's some people saying it's not actually a retcon. That didn't bother me, whatever it might be. I just enjoyed what was happening in the show and what all the characters were doing and their interactions with each other and everything. So again, 9.5 out of 10. Can't wait for next season. And yeah, I'll go ahead and end it there. But yeah, as I said before, guys, please like, subscribe, share, anything to help out this channel. Yeah, I think that's it. That's a good one to end on. I will catch you later.